Self-discovery is a deeply personal journey that each individual must embark on to truly understand their potential, values, and aspirations. It's not simply about learning new things, but about peeling back the layers of assumptions, fears, and habits that have formed over time. When someone asks, "What is your limit?" it is not a question that can be answered easily or quickly. It's a prompt that forces introspection, a mirror that reflects not just who you are, but who you could become if all self-imposed boundaries were removed. To answer this question honestly, one must first explore who they are at the core. From an early age, we begin absorbing the world around us, what people expect from us, what behaviors are praised or punished, and what paths seem acceptable or unacceptable. Over time, this conditioning shapes the way we see ourselves and our place in the world. We may come to believe that we are only capable of certain things, that success is only meant for a select few, or that dreams must be traded for practicality. These beliefs are rarely challenged unless we take the time to question them. Self-discovery is the process of doing just that, questioning long-held beliefs, examining where they came from, and deciding whether they still serve us. This process often begins with discomfort. When someone feels stuck, unfulfilled, or lost, it's usually a signal that they have drifted away from their true self. These feelings are not problems to be solved, but indicators pointing toward deeper truth. In exploring these emotions, we may uncover forgotten passions, buried fears, or parts of ourselves we've neglected for the sake of fitting in or getting by. Understanding what excites you, what drains you, and what scares you can provide invaluable insight into your inner world and what might be holding you back. One of the most powerful aspects of self-discovery is realizing that limits are often illusions. The mind has a natural tendency to resist change and protect us from perceived threats. Unfortunately, this protective instinct can sometimes keep us from taking necessary risks or stepping outside of our comfort zones. By investigating where our perceived limits come from, we often find that they are not rooted in fact, but in fear. These fears can be deeply ingrained: fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of success even, and they can influence our choices in subtle but powerful ways. Identifying and confronting these fears is a key step in breaking through the mental barriers that keep us confined. Self-discovery also involves recognizing your unique strengths and values. It's easy to compare yourself to others and feel inadequate, but each person's journey is unique. What works for someone else might not work for you, and that's not a flaw. It's a fact of individuality. By paying close attention to what gives you energy, what feels meaningful, and what aligns with your sense of purpose, you begin to craft a more authentic path forward. This authenticity becomes a compass, guiding you toward experiences and opportunities that resonate deeply, rather than simply checking off society's boxes for success. Another important piece of this journey is understanding the role of failure. Many people avoid pushing their limits because they associate failure with shame or defeat. But failure is not the opposite of success, it's part of the process. Each failure offers feedback, each misstep teaches resilience, and each setback presents a chance to recalibrate. Once you accept this, your fear of failure begins to lose its grip, and your willingness to test your limits expands. The courage to fail is often the key that unlocks true potential. Moreover, self-discovery is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing process that evolves as you grow and change. As life throws new challenges and opportunities your way, you continue learning about who you are and what you're capable of. This means that your limits today may not be your limits tomorrow. What once seemed impossible may one day become routine. Recognizing this fluidity helps prevent stagnation and keeps you moving forward. To truly answer the question, what is your limit? You have to be willing to step into the unknown. You have to risk discomfort, challenge assumptions, and face parts of yourself that may not be easy to confront. But on the other side of that effort is a deeper understanding of who you are and what you can achieve. Self-discovery doesn't hand you all the answers, but it does give you the tools to find them. It opens doors that were once hidden and shows you that your real limit is likely much farther out than you ever imagined. The journey inward is, in the end, what allows you to go farther outward. Breaking barriers is more than just overcoming obstacles. It's about challenging the assumptions and limitations that have been accepted as truth for too long. These barriers can be internal, such as fear, doubt, or insecurity, or external, like societal expectations, financial hardship, or lack of opportunity. Regardless of their origin, barriers have a way of shrinking our vision and making the world seem smaller than it really is. When we talk about reaching our limits, what we're really asking is whether the barriers we face are immovable or if they are simply waiting to be tested. Every person carries with them a set of invisible walls. Some of these were built by others, family members, teachers, or authority figures who insisted that certain dreams were unrealistic, or that certain paths were not meant for people like us. Others were constructed internally, shaped by past failures or negative experiences. Over time, these walls can become so familiar that they begin to feel like part of who we are. We begin to say things like, "I'm not good at that," or "that's just not for me," without ever really examining where those beliefs came from. The first step in breaking barriers is acknowledging that they exist and questioning whether they deserve the power we've given them. Challenging these barriers requires both courage and clarity. Courage to act despite fear, and clarity to see that the fear is often exaggerated or misplaced. For many, the fear of failure is one of the most powerful barriers of all. The idea of trying something new or difficult and not succeeding can be paralyzing, but failure, when embraced rather than avoided, becomes a teacher. It provides insight, strengthens resilience, and sharpens our understanding of what needs to change. Often, the barrier isn't the failure itself, but our interpretation of it, seeing it as the end rather than a step along the way. Another common barrier is the need for approval. We live in a world where fitting in and being accepted can sometimes feel more important than being true to ourselves. We may avoid certain actions or choices because we worry about how others will react. This desire to please or conform becomes a quiet barrier, one that holds us back without making noise. To break it, we have to accept that not everyone will understand or support our decisions, and that's okay. Living authentically often means walking a path that others might not recognize or approve of, but that doesn't make it any less valid. The most transformative breakthroughs often come when we challenge what we thought we were capable of. Think of the moment when someone runs a marathon after believing they could barely jog a mile, or when a person speaks in front of a crowd despite years of avoiding attention. These moments don't happen by accident. They happen because someone decided to test the barrier rather than accept it. They looked at the thing that intimidated them and said, "Maybe this doesn't have to stop me." And once a single barrier is broken, it creates momentum. The mind begins to shift, seeing challenges not as threats, but as opportunities for expansion. Support and environment also play key roles in breaking barriers. Sometimes we're surrounded by people or systems that reinforce our limitations, either out of their own fears or lack of understanding. In those cases, it becomes necessary to seek out new influences, people who challenge us, uplift us, and model what's possible. When we see others overcoming adversity and breaking their own barriers, it plants a seed of belief that we might do the same. Community and mentorship can provide the tools and encouragement needed to push past limits we once thought permanent. Time and patience are also essential. Barriers are rarely broken in a single moment. More often, it's a slow and steady process of persistence testing, failing, adjusting, and trying again. Some days will feel like progress, others may feel like setbacks, but each step taken, even if small, is a crack in the wall. Eventually, those cracks become openings, and those openings become gateways to new possibilities. The most important thing is not speed, but consistency, the willingness to keep showing up and pushing forward even when progress feels invisible. Ultimately, breaking barriers is about expanding the sense of what's possible. It's about realizing that many of the things we once thought were out of reach were simply waiting for us to stop accepting the limits we were handed. It's a journey that requires effort and faith, not just in the outcome, but in ourselves. Once we recognize that our limits are not fixed lines but flexible edges, the world begins to open in unexpected ways. What seemed impossible yesterday becomes achievable today. And with each barrier that falls, a new version of ourselves emerges, stronger, bolder, and closer to our full potential. The way we think shapes everything we experience. Mindset is not just a mental preference or attitude. It is the lens through which we interpret our challenges, opportunities, and potential. It quietly determines how far we are willing to go, how we respond to setbacks, and whether we see obstacles as dead ends or stepping stones. When someone asks, "What is your limit?" the answer is often found not in physical ability or external circumstance, but in the mindset behind the action. What we believe about ourselves and the world becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and changing that belief can transform our lives. There are generally two kinds of mindsets that frame this conversation, fixed and growth. A fixed mindset assumes that traits like intelligence, talent, and ability are static. You either have them or you don't. People operating under this belief tend to avoid risks, fear failure, and give up when challenges arise, because to fail is to prove one's limitations. In contrast, a growth mind that views abilities as things that can be developed with effort, learning, and perseverance. From this perspective, failure is not a sign of inadequacy but a natural part of the growth process. The difference between these two mindsets is not just theoretical. It plays out in real-world results, relationships, and resilience. Consider someone who wants to pursue a new career path but lacks the necessary experience. A fixed mindset might tell them, "You're not qualified, you're too late to start over, you'll never catch up." A growth mindset responds differently. "You can learn, everyone starts somewhere, this will be hard but worth it." The mindset one adopts in this moment can determine whether they remain stuck or take action. It influences whether they allow doubt to keep them stagnant or use it as fuel to grow. Mindset becomes the invisible force that sets the trajectory for every goal. Even the smallest internal narratives matter. Thoughts like "I always mess this up," "I'm not good with people," or "I'm just not creative," may seem like harmless self-commentary, but they reinforce mental ceilings. Over time, these beliefs harden into perceived facts. We stop challenging them, and they quietly dictate what we do or avoid. Shifting mindset means learning to catch these thoughts, examine their origin, and replace them with more constructive beliefs. Instead of saying, "I can't do this," we begin asking, "How can I learn to do this?" That single shift opens a door that was once locked. A positive mindset does not mean ignoring reality or pretending everything is fine. It means interpreting situations in ways that empower rather than defeat. Life is unpredictable and difficulties are inevitable. The question is not whether problems will arise, but how we will interpret and respond to them. Two people can face the same situation and experience entirely different outcomes simply because of how they think. One sees an obstacle and shuts down. The other sees the same obstacle and sees a challenge to overcome. That difference lies not in external factors but in internal orientation. The most powerful changes often begin with a shift in self-perception. When we begin to believe that we are capable of learning, adapting, and overcoming, we act differently. We take more initiative, we recover from setbacks more quickly, we pursue opportunities we might have once ignored. It is not about becoming arrogant or overconfident, it's about trusting in your capacity to grow. That trust is not naive, it is evidence-based, rooted in observing your own progress over time. Each small success builds a new story about who you are and what you're capable of. Mindset also shapes how we see other people. When we adopt a growth mindset, we become more compassionate and open. We understand that others are also learning, also evolving. We stop labeling people as good or bad at something and instead see potential everywhere. This shift in thinking transforms relationships, workplaces, and communities. Encouraging others to grow while maintaining belief in their potential often creates a ripple effect. One person's mindset can influence many. Changing mindset is not easy. It involves confronting long-held beliefs and being willing to sit in discomfort. It means allowing space for failure without judgment and choosing curiosity over criticism. It requires repetition, reminding ourselves again and again that we are not fixed in place, that change is not only possible but natural. Over time, these small shifts compound into major transformations. We stop asking whether we are good enough and start focusing on getting better. Ultimately, mindset is the foundation of possibility. Without the right mindset, even the most gifted individuals can remain stuck. With it, ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things. The brain is not a static machine. It is adaptable, responsive, and always evolving. When we commit to developing a mindset that embraces challenge, effort, and growth, we redefine our limits. We stop letting fear dictate our choices and begin stepping into our potential, one thought at a time. In that sense, mindset doesn't just matter, it is everything. Taking responsibility for your own life is one of the most empowering and challenging commitments a person can make. Personal accountability means recognizing that, while we cannot control everything that happens to us, we are in control of how we respond, what we choose next, and how we shape our future. It's the practice of owning your actions, your decisions, and their consequences, good or bad, without shifting blame or waiting for someone else to fix things. When it comes to pushing beyond your limits, accountability is not just helpful, it's essential. Without it, goals remain wishes, progress is inconsistent, and growth is stunted by excuses. There is often a temptation to place responsibility for our circumstances on other people, institutions, or events. It's easy to say, I would be more successful if I had a better boss, or I could get in shape if I had more time. While outside factors do influence our lives, blaming them entirely strips us of our power. Accountability flips that narrative and asks, what part of this do I control? Even if the answer is small, it is significant. Owning your part, your habits, your reactions, your priorities, puts the power back into your hands and gives you the ability to change. When someone asks, what is your limit? It's natural to point toward external constraints. Maybe it's a lack of money, support, time, or knowledge, but the deeper truth often lies in what we allow to continue unchallenged. Personal accountability invites us to look inward and ask hard questions. Am I really doing my best? Have I been consistent? Have I allowed comfort or fear to dictate my choices? These are not easy questions, and they may reveal uncomfortable truths, but they are necessary if we want to move forward with clarity and strength. Being accountable means accepting that your life is largely the result of your choices. This doesn't mean everything is within your control. Life is unpredictable and hardships are real. But even in the face of adversity, there is power in how you respond. You can choose resilience over defeat. You can choose action over apathy. You can choose to learn rather than shut down. These choices build character, and over time they build results. The more you take ownership, the less helpless you feel. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment or ideal conditions, you begin to create progress in the now. Accountability also strengthens self-trust. When you make a promise to yourself and keep it, you build confidence. When you break that promise but take responsibility instead of making excuses, you build integrity. Over time, these moments accumulate, shaping your identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who follows through, who shows up even when it's hard, who doesn't give up after setbacks. That identity becomes a source of momentum. It's much easier to grow and push limits when you believe in your own consistency and reliability. One of the hardest parts of personal accountability is facing failure. It's tempting to rationalize or deflect when things don't go our way. Maybe we didn't meet a goal, lost an opportunity, or disappointed someone. Owning those failures without self-pity or blame requires emotional maturity. It involves saying, "I didn't handle that well. Here's what I'll do differently next time." That mindset not only fosters growth, but creates credibility with yourself and with others. People respect those who own their mistakes and learn from them. More importantly, they grow stronger because of that ownership. Accountability also removes the illusion of luck. While circumstances matter and luck does play a role at times, people who consistently progress toward their goals are usually the ones taking regular, deliberate action. They are not waiting for the right mood or permission from others. They set standards for themselves and stick to them. They don't blame the clock when they waste time, or the economy when they haven't put in the work. This doesn't mean being harsh or unforgiving toward yourself. It means being honest and committed. Discipline, after all, is a form of self-respect. Surrounding yourself with others who value accountability can elevate your own standards. When you're around people who hold themselves responsible, you are more likely to do the same. It creates an atmosphere of progress and mutual respect. Likewise, being accountable to others, whether through mentorship, community, or support groups, can provide the encouragement and feedback needed to stay on track. But the deepest and most lasting accountability always begins with yourself. Ultimately, personal accountability is about freedom. It frees you from the cycle of blame and helplessness. It gives you control over your path and confidence in your capacity to handle whatever comes next. Limits will always exist in some form, but many of them shrink or disappear entirely when met with ownership and resolve. When you stop waiting for someone else to change your life and decide to take charge, the question of what is your limit becomes less about restriction and more about potential. You realize that the biggest limit was never the world outside. It was how much you were willing to own your part in shaping your future. Motivation is the fuel that drives growth. It is the inner force that propels people to learn more, do more, and become more. Without motivation, potential remains dormant, goals fade into the background, and progress stalls. But when motivation is present, genuine, meaningful, and sustained, it transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. The question, "What is your limit?" becomes an open invitation rather than a closed door. Motivation for growth doesn't just inspire action. It gives purpose to the process and resilience to keep going when things get difficult. The desire to grow often begins with dissatisfaction. A person might look at their current situation and feel that something is missing, that their life, work, or relationships don't reflect what they're truly capable of. This discomfort can be powerful if it is channeled constructively. Rather than seeing it as a negative emotion to avoid, it can serve as a call to action. Growth begins where comfort ends. Motivation rooted in the desire to improve, evolve, or escape stagnation becomes a powerful trigger for change. There are different types of motivation, and understanding what drives you is crucial. External motivation comes from outside rewards or pressures. Money, recognition, deadlines, or expectations from others. These can be effective for short-term results, but they often fade once the reward is achieved or the pressure is removed. Internal motivation, on the other hand, arises from personal values, passions, and goals. It's what keeps someone studying late into the night not because they have to, but because they care. It's what pushes a person to keep practicing a skill even when progress is slow. When motivation comes from within, it is more durable and more deeply tied to personal growth. Growth requires effort, and effort requires energy. Motivation provides that energy, especially during setbacks. There will always be moments of doubt, boredom, or fear. Without strong motivation, these moments can derail progress. But when a person is connected to a meaningful reason for growing, they can persist even when the journey feels difficult or uncertain. Motivation acts as a reminder of the bigger picture, the future version of yourself that you're working toward. It's a compass that points forward when the path is unclear. People often wait for motivation to strike before they act, but motivation is not always a spark. It can also be a result of action. Taking even a small step forward can generate momentum, which in turn fuels more motivation. This cycle of action and reinforcement builds confidence and a sense of progress. When you see yourself improving even slightly, it affirms that growth is possible and worth pursuing. You begin to crave the next step, the next challenge, the next breakthrough. Surrounding yourself with motivation can also make a difference. The books you read, the people you spend time with, the environment you create, all of these influence your energy and mindset. Being around those who value growth and strive for improvement can be contagious. Their dedication and discipline can inspire you to raise your standards and commit more fully to your own development. Motivation is not just an internal force. It is also shaped by the external signals you choose to expose yourself to. Clarity of purpose is a strong motivator. When you know why you're doing something, it becomes easier to stay committed. Vague goals like get better or do more rarely inspire lasting motivation, but specific, meaningful goals, like becoming a more skilled communicator, building a healthier lifestyle, or creating a business that solves a real problem, carry emotional weight. They tap into your identity and values. They remind you that your growth is not just about performance, but about becoming the person you want to be. It's important to recognize that motivation fluctuates. There will be days when you feel inspired and ready to tackle anything, and others when you feel tired or discouraged. This is normal. The key is to build systems and habits that support growth even when motivation dips. Discipline, routines, and accountability can help carry you through those lower moments. In this way, motivation doesn't have to be constant to be effective. It just has to be strong enough to get you started and clear enough to remind you why you started. Ultimately, motivation for growth is about believing that change is possible and worthwhile. It's about recognizing that who you are today is not the final version of who you can become. When you stay connected to that belief, growth becomes not just a goal but a way of life. Every step forward, no matter how small, is a choice to expand your limits. And over time, those choices add up to something remarkable. A life shaped not by what held you back, but by what pulled you forward. Measuring progress is essential for growth. Without measurement, effort can feel aimless and motivation can fade. Progress is what bridges the gap between where you are and where you want to be. It turns abstract dreams into tangible steps. It transforms the overwhelming into the manageable. More importantly, it gives you the ability to reflect, adjust, and improve. When you are working to push past your perceived limits, tracking your movement forward is not just helpful, it's necessary. It keeps you grounded in reality, encourages persistence, and reveals the evidence that change is happening, even when it's hard to see day by day. People often underestimate how much they're improving simply because they're too close to their own progress. When you're in the middle of the work, surrounded by the routine effort of learning, practicing, or building something new, it can be easy to feel like nothing is changing. But when you measure and look back even a few weeks or months, the picture often tells a different story. the skills are sharper, the confidence is stronger, the results are better. Progress is rarely loud or dramatic. It tends to arrive quietly, the result of consistent actions compounded over time. Measurement doesn't always have to be numerical, though numbers can be powerful. They offer clarity, whether it's tracking how much weight you lift, how many words you write, how many clients you serve, or how much time you devote to learning a new skill. Numbers provide objective feedback. They help remove emotion from the equation. A bad day or moment of doubt can feel overwhelming, but when you look at your data and see improvement over time, it brings perspective. It reminds you that one rough day does not undo the progress of weeks or months. There are also qualitative ways to measure growth. These are often more subtle but no less meaningful. They show up in how you respond to challenges that used to throw you off. They appear in your ability to communicate more clearly, remain calm under pressure, or bounce back from setbacks faster than before. You might not be able to assign a number to these changes, but you can feel their impact. Journaling, self-reflection, and regular check-ins with yourself or a mentor can help bring these insights to light. Sometimes the biggest sign of growth is realizing how much you've changed in your mindset or character. Setting milestones is another way to measure progress effectively. Milestones break a large goal into smaller, more manageable pieces. They provide checkpoints along the way that help you stay focused and motivated. Each time you reach one, it's a chance to celebrate, reflect, and reset. Without milestones, a goal can feel like a distant finish line with no way to know if you're getting closer. But with them, you create a map, one that shows you how far you've come and what's still ahead. This kind of structure gives progress shape and direction. Consistency plays a huge role in measuring progress. Sporadic effort makes it difficult to evaluate what's working and what's not. When you show up regularly and track your actions, patterns begin to emerge. You see which habits lead to better results, which distractions pull you off course, and which strategies need refining. Measuring isn't just about looking backward, it's about creating feedback loops that inform your next move. It turns growth into an intentional, iterative process. It's also important to celebrate small wins. Many people dismiss incremental progress because they're fixated on the end result. But real growth happens in stages. The ability to recognize and appreciate the small victories along the way builds momentum. It trains your brain to associate effort with reward, which keeps you engaged in the process. A small improvement might not seem like much in the moment, but it signals movement. And enough small movements added together create transformation. Measuring progress also helps you stay honest. It's easy to convince yourself that you're doing your best or that circumstances are holding you back when you're not actively tracking your input and output. But the data doesn't lie. If you set a goal and weeks go by with little measurable progress, it forces a moment of truth. Are your actions aligned with your intentions? Are you prioritizing what really matters? Measurement shines a light on the gap between intention and execution, and that awareness is the first step to closing it. Lastly, progress should be measured relative to yourself, not others. Comparison can be motivating in small doses, but it often leads to discouragement. Your journey is unique, your pace, your path, your priorities. Measuring progress against your past self is far more productive. It focuses your attention on what you can control and keeps you grounded in personal growth. The only true benchmark is whether you are better today than you were yesterday, last week, or last year. In the end, progress is not just a sign of success. It is success. It means you are showing up, doing the work, and moving forward. It doesn't matter if the steps are big or small, fast or slow. What matters is that they're being taken, tracked, and appreciated. Measuring progress turns the invisible into the visible. It makes growth real. And once you can see that growth clearly, your limits no longer feel like boundaries. They become starting points for your next breakthrough.